19 and a junior in college the day I tumbled into the murky river of adult consciousness. I didn't see it coming when I ate my cereal that morning. Didn't have any idea when I rode my bike to class, breathing heavy up the only hill on my Kansas campus. When it hit me, though, I was more ready for it than I knew. Much like countless college students before me, I was about to have my worldview mangled. That day, in my women's studies course, we were discussing religion. And having not read the material for class, I didn't know what to expect. My professor cruised into class late, as usual, a shortcoming that I continually forgave her for because I both wanted to be her and be her best friend. Not only was she the smartest person I've ever met, she never failed to color coordinate her jewelry and makeup with her outfits, and every day I got to see a new fashion creation by the coolest, prettiest feminist in town. We started to get into the readings, and Dr. Jackson began lecturing about women in organized religion. Historically, she stated, women have been excluded from leadership roles in almost every denomination. In many religions, that's changing, but for example, in the Catholic Church, women still can't be priests. She went on talking, but I was suspended in that moment, my mind whirring. I was a lifelong Catholic, and the concept she had just presented mixed me up. It occurred to me that I had never questioned why women couldn't be priests and wield leadership and decision-making power in the church. It had just seemed natural for men to do it. However, now that I was examining the status quo through this academic, objective lens, I realized how sexist that rule was. And once I recognized that imperative for the pretext that it was, the rest of my religion came tumbling down after it. If Catholicism could be sexist, then it wasn't perfect. And then it was easy to see every other flaw. It was homophobic and power-hungry and had an unmentionable past. I was disappointed, but mostly pissed off. All of a sudden, the faith I'd pledged to be a part of my entire life seemed like a hoax, a preposterous lie. Also, it seemed sort of stupid. It was my first taste of disillusionment with society, my parents, the world. The Catholic Church was a crock. Later in life, I would learn that our fair United States would overthrow the government of any country that got in its way, that Martin Luther King Jr. had numerous extramarital affairs, that the dynamics of my extended family were like a particularly nasty season of Survivor, and that you truly cannot ever count on a touring musician to be faithful. But there's nothing like the sweet first experience of your innocent, childlike beliefs being blown apart by the truth and watching the bloody bits of your former self slide down the wall. I dare say it's a rite of passage. My 19-year-old self, bless her little heart, lived only in the black and white. There was no room for gray. Therefore, as I sat in my rickety old mini desk in class that day, stunned at my previous ignorance, I did the only thing that I understood as possible. I dropped the Catholic Church on its sorry ass and became an atheist. The transformation was quick and complete. I would not be controlled with the threat of hell for one more minute. I ditched all that shit I'd been placing faith in for too many years and emerged into enlightenment. Naturally, my first order of business was to publicly renounce religion to my family. I was feeling tricked and cantankerous and sort of wanted to provoke them. I declared that I was no longer Catholic and that the institution's oppressive ideology was not something with which I could be affiliated. My aunts, uncles, and mother were irritated with the confrontational nature of my announcement, but it was my grandmother's heart that I truly broke. She's been a devout Catholic her entire life, attending Mass every day and dedicatedly carrying on the traditions through her family. It killed her. Regardless, I was resolute. I tossed my religion to the curb, and for a long time, I didn't look back. I thought I never would, but years later, it rose from the dead. And it won't stop bugging me. Sometimes now I wonder, is it as simple as walking away? Could I really have expected to just shake it off? My grandmother is one of the most intelligent people I've ever known, and someone whose respect I would like to keep. A black-haired, blue-eyed Irish beauty, she's a first-generation American and right feisty. My family warned me not to upset her with my disruptive political views, but because she's so knowledgeable, we have extremely interesting conversations. She agrees with many of my views on the church, but the difference is that she would never leave. She calls herself a cafeteria Catholic, someone who just takes the part she wants. No, she sticks around and prays for a more egalitarian and just church in the future. During my most recent visit to Kansas City, we sat on our couch, sipping black tea, listening to the rain, and talking about a priest in our parish who was just arrested on charges of child molestation. It's disgusting, I said. The church creates this culture where homosexuality isn't okay and priests have to hide they're gay, and then we have this horrible abuse, and they just cover it up whenever possible. I had worked myself into quite a tizzy when my grandmother laid her hand on mine and answered me like I'm 3. Joni, the church is run by human beings, and therefore it is like a person. It messes up. It loses its way. It doesn't mean there's no good in it or that there's not a God on our side. She has a response to everything. She always urges me to return to the church and reminds me that it needs voices like mine or it will never change. When I once asked what my voice is like, she replied, opinionated, loud, argumentative. I do see how others are raising their voices within the church, and I admire them. For many, it's worth fighting for. They get beauty and love and spirituality from this faith, in spite of the corresponding dark side. There are LGBT Catholics who make a racket, who maintain that although this religion doesn't appear to want them, it's theirs and they're not going anywhere. Some women have ordained themselves as priests, although the Vatican refuses to recognize them. Many Chicanas hold fast to Catholicism because of how much it means to their culture and their families. Thousands of pro-choicers have formed the group Catholics for Choice. These people do not see organized religion in my stark, perhaps naive, black and white terms. They cling to this denomination, although they recognize the unholy flaws. They could all become Unitarians and live in a world of rainbows and gumdrops. They don't have to fight this fight. But Catholicism is the way they like to get their God, and they're not leaving. Something ties them to this damn religion, whether it's culture, family, tradition, or unabashed obstinance. Maybe they're not all chumps with false consciousness, which is how my 19-year-old self dismissed them. I see people making Catholicism into what they need it to be, and I'm proud of them. But I don't think I have it in me. I'm too far removed, too far gone. For me, the continued trajectory of oppression outweighs the love. Anyway, I don't really even believe in God. Still, I crave the familiar traditions, the rituals. I crave the connection with my grandma and female relatives. I miss the smell of incense and the hymns and looking at Jesus all dead up there. I miss taking communion. And it's a nice community if you never discuss politics or social justice. The community, when we had a death in the family, was good to us. They brought us food and helped us plan the funeral. People he had never met came to the service to show love for the rest of us. My grandmother prays every single day that all become Catholic again. And she has the rest of my gigantic family doing it too. Now, I may not believe in God, but I do believe in the power of collective thought. That's been documented. And currently, there are 30 people praying every day that all see the holy light. That's a lot of intense energy focused on my salvation, and I'm a little scared that it's working. What if I can't withstand that much mental determination? I always say, I don't need a church to be spiritual. I can pray to the earth goddesses in the mountains or at the ocean. But I hardly ever do that. Church does create a space in which you have to sit still for an hour, and since you're there, you don't have anything better to do but examine your life and yourself and maybe squeeze in a prayer or two. Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I went to church on Easter. Now, I would never tell my grandma because it would make her way too happy. I'm like the kid who enjoys meat but goes vegetarian because of the animal cruelty and guiltily eats burgers in secret to preserve his street cred. It felt wrong, but also really nice. However, I have a reputation to uphold, so this information doesn't leave the room. Truthfully, I didn't go for the religion. I didn't inhale anything except incense. I got something else there. Comfort, family, memories. I recalled my grandma teaching me how to say a rosary, the first time that I altar served and had no idea what I was doing. Even the time my friend Lori and I snuck into our church and chugged the unconsecrated wine. I went because it felt like my blankie. Can one be an atheist Catholic? For now, officially, on the record, I'm an atheist non-Catholic. And that's what you damn well better say if anyone asks. Thank you.